Nobody wants to hear what we have to say, that in a way it's been in our culture suggested that we should just disappear in a corner, really, because we're not needed anymore. But really, women in our 50s, 60s, 70s, and now into our 80s and possibly beyond, we have the education, we have the wisdom, we have the experience. Now is the time for us to be bringing this together and really stepping into something that does inspire and excite us and help us share all those tools with the world. And I really see the more that we see each other's examples and the more we come together as a community, so a community of women, a global community of women who are standing up and saying, okay, I am not going to disappear in the corner. I am not finished. I am just getting started. And now together we are going to take on amazing things that we didn't think were even possible before. So to me, that's really that big vision of where I see the books sparking that interest and sparking that what's next.
Welcome again to another inspiring episode of Age of Reinvention. Redefine your freedom lifestyle and purpose at midlife. I'm your host, Emily Bron, and today we are diving into another story of profound transformation and empowerment with remarkable guest, Cathy Derksen. Cathy founded Inspired Tenacity, a platform where she empowers women to face and embrace their midlife with courage and creativity. Her personal story, from a clinical genetics professional to an author, speaker, mentor, and international bestseller advocate, is inspiring. Today, Cathy will share with us her journey of reinvention and how she's helping women around the world to find their voice, overcome imposter syndrome, navigate midlife challenges, and step into their power with confidence and clarity. So get ready to be inspired and motivated, and perhaps even see a new path unfold for yourself. Let's welcome Cathy Derksen. Hi, Cathy.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Emily.
I'm happy to see and speak with you in my online studio. And let me start with your short bio. Cathy Derksen is a founder of company Inspired Tenacity. She is disruptor and catalyst dedicated to improving the lives of the women in her community and worldwide. Cathy helps women rediscover their talents, find their voice, and step into new possibilities. Cathy is an international speaker and 15x times number one bestselling author. She has created a platform for women to share their wisdom and inspiring stories in collaborative books, taking them from chapter concept to best-selling author in a simple, exciting process. So there's a lot of questions coming from whatever I learned about you, but as usually, or in this case, I will start from you, Cathy. Can you tell us, please, about that pivotal moment that inspired you to transition from a career and clinical genetics to founding Inspired Tenacity, focusing on empowering women to reignite their lives and businesses?
Perfect. Yes. And it's a a story with many layers and different chapters in it, that's for sure. And because it was about 12 years ago now, actually a little bit more than 12 years now. And I was at a point in my life when I recognized that my marriage had become toxic and abusive. My current workplace was also a very toxic environment to be in. And it just hit me one day that, you know what, this is not the way that life is supposed to be. This is not the role model of a parent and somebody in a marriage that I wanted my children to see. I'm like, I am their role model and I need to live in a way that is showing that style, that what is a marriage? What is someone who's happy with their career and their life? And that's when it really hit me that I needed to make some big changes in my life in order for me to really be living and walking the walk that would really show them this is how you should be living your life.
So what were the steps? I'm trying to reimagine. You give up your work, you started to grow your side business.
Basically, at that time, like I said, I realized that my marriage was also very toxic and abusive. And so I knew, and I had two teenagers at the time, and they were also both suffering from the family environment we were living in. And so I realized that I needed to get them out of that situation as well. So the first part was really around how do I get us out of that situation? So that obviously involved some big decision making, some big planning. What was that going to look like now, starting as a single mom and having to start my own home and all those things. So, obviously, many hours of work and thinking and planning and making that happen. And then the whole side around changing my whole career, part of that was I got thinking about what is it that I actually want to do with the rest of my life and what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? What is it that I bring that's different and special, that's unique to me? And that's when I really realized that working directly with women, especially, and having a true impact on helping them change their life was where I really felt my focus was, where my calling was. And so at that time, I actually made my first career move. I became a financial planner because I thought that money's an area that a lot of women feel they need support in. So I thought this is how I can create impact in women's lives. And I spent a decade working in the big banks and investment companies and just still realized that this was not the right, it didn't give me that space to really create the impact I felt I needed to have. Of course, in that industry, there's a lot of rules and regulations and what you're allowed to do and say and sell and who you're supposed to be working in that industry. And I thought, no, this is not me. This is not how I am going to create the impact that I feel I'm here to have. And so it was about 3 years ago now, just over 3 years. I guess we're pushing 4 years now, when I decided if I'm going to really have this impact that I felt I was here to have, that I needed to just do it my way. I needed to start from scratch. I needed to figure out what is it that I do that's unique, that obviously brings me joy and satisfaction, but also is creating that impact, like a true impact in the lives of the women that I work with. And that's when Inspired Tenacity was born, out of intuition and just following that path. What is it and how do I do this? And at first I thought I would do a coaching model, life coach, money coach, and it still didn't feel like quite the right answer. And so I kept still following my intuition, learning, listening to other people, and again, looking for those things that was me. What do I do that I love to do that I feel creates impact? And that's when I really realized that the books that I do, so the collaborative books, multi author books, I have been involved in doing books since 2019, when I was just another author in other people's book project. And it was a couple of years ago that it hit me that I realized I really love doing these books. I love each book is different, has a different theme. You're writing your chapter, but you're writing it from a different perspective based on the theme of the book. And every book brings you into a different network, a different community of people, because most books tend to have 20 to 30 people in them. So every one you're involved in, you meet a whole new network of people. And I realized that I loved participating in those books. And so I actually went to one of the publishing groups that I love to work with, and I proposed a collaboration where I create my book projects. So I create my titles and themes. I bring together women from around the world. I support them in getting their chapters ready to go. And then we take the whole thing over to the publishing team who looks after the other professional editing, proofreading, formatting, getting everything on Amazon, doing all of our marketing materials, and we do a whole Amazon launch. So it really has been a very twisted and lots of turns of how I got from my previous original career in medical genetics to what I am doing now. Many leaps, a lot of reimagining and reinventing.
In my case, I can share now with you. Actually, my first work was in scientific lab, biochemistry of physiology and biochemistry of plants back in Soviet Union. And it was part in my life when I was working for the banks, actually in different countries. So in each country, I've had similar background, which I was when you knew immigrant, you're happy that you found it was our first immigration as a family to Israel, and you just learn language and you get to the bank, and it's a different system and all. And whatever, but excitement was quickly going down. But me working in this, it was important for the family finances, but not for me personally. And actually, it took years and twists and another immigrations and another changes till I'm speaking with you now. But okay, it's not about me. When I see the parallels, sometimes how we as a woman, actually as a people, navigate changes in our lives, I feel empowered. But going back, now it became really interesting to me. How do you think you believe your scientific background has shaped your approach to mentoring women, fostering their personal professional growth, and actually all these projects that you involved now?
That's an interesting question. I would almost say in some ways, in the ways that there's an overlap, I would say part of that is in the coordinating and organizing a lot of different things going on at the same time. When I used to work in medical genetics, I worked in the lab a lot of the time too, which involved a lot of different bits and pieces and timing. And so I guess those skills definitely overlap with what I do now, where there are so many people that I'm involved in, so many parts of the project. I would say those are definitely common things. I would say beyond that, though, that it's more my creative side that's come out to do this work. I always like to say that I've been a biologist since the age of 3. It was definitely the first thing when I was first old enough to really decide what I was interested in. Biology, like anything that was alive, was where my curiosity was. And I will always be a biologist at heart. But I think growing up as a kid, and especially one that did lean towards the sciences and math, that I remember being told that I wasn't creative and that writing wasn't my thing. And that so I really shouldn't worry about those things, just focus on the math and science and get a job, get a career, do that. And so I would say in what I do now, it's almost like I've rediscovered that, yes, I am creative. And yes, I can write. And yes, I can do these other things. So it's almost become that I'm using the other side of my brain now.
Yeah, these ideas which we get from childhood often provided from the best intention by maybe parents, friends, or adults affected our life for long time, for years till sometimes we grown up enough to understand that we need to try, that we need to work on, and we have a lot to offer. I believe it's from this point you started. Yes. And I am like Inspired Tenacity is the name of your project, represents this significant leap into creating platform for women to share their stories, personal stories, yes, or maybe business, but it's still personal. So what were the key challenges you faced in this transition for yourself? and how did you overcome them?
Yes, I would say for anyone who has left a job, left that regular paycheck, benefits, regular routine, things set out for you, how you're supposed to do your job and what needs to get done, to leave all that behind and step into being an entrepreneur where I literally have to create everything. I have to imagine what it's going to look like. I have to put the pieces together. I have to schedule myself in a way of getting things done. And just the whole learning process, I think, of all those different things that we have to learn along the way, whether it's the running of the business, doing social media, all these other marketing and everything else that comes with being an entrepreneur. I would say those were some of the biggest challenges. And of course, that whole side around going from having a regular paycheck to suddenly having to figure out how you were going to get a paycheck and what that was going to look like and what you needed to do to get that paycheck. Look, that is definitely a huge part of that learning curve as well.
I truly understand you. I can share with you that I'm 27 years living in Canada, and only my first work was full-time work. After then, more than 20 years, I'm self-employed, working even when I've had different career in IT consulting and being single mom, I understand how important to have this base for all family dynamic, I would say, and for all our ideas, how to get it from ideas to implementation. And with all this, you created several book projects to help women become international best-selling authors. I still don't understand how it works, but could you elaborate on the significance of storytelling and how you actually get women to open up to start actually sharing these stories? Because sometimes, and for women coming from different cultures in addition, just to open up, it's a big effort, but to create the project as a book, please share with me the secret.
Yes, yes. And I think a big part of it for me is that understanding that I think as women, we learn a lot from each other's stories. And when we start seeing ourselves in similar situations, that the story really helps us move forward. So, say we are a woman who's going through a divorce or a career change and hitting all of those frustrations and challenges. When we hear stories from other women who have gone through similar things and learn how did they handle it, what were their challenges, what did they do differently that maybe I need to learn from, to me, that's one of the most important parts of story is by sharing our challenges and how we got through things. We help the reader, the other women, to now look at themselves differently, look at their own challenges and opportunities differently. And so to me, that's a big part of why I love doing this. It's because I really do see that I like to call it a ripple effect of the story and how others learn from it, and then how they change their life, and then how they support other people in their work that they're doing. And so that's really where it comes from in my focus of, especially around women and stories. And yes, the books that I've been doing are international projects. So women that have come from around the world. The last book, we had a book just released a couple weeks ago called Ripple Effect of Impact. And that book had women from US, Canada, Germany, South Africa, and Australia. So that was very exciting. And yeah, I would say that for a lot of the women that do step into participating in the books, they have come to a point where they've been thinking about their story. They've been, you know, in transitions of their own enough to see what their story is and what part of their story they want to share. And like you were mentioning, quite often too, when you're going through big things in life, you're not always ready to share yet. You're not ready to necessarily tell all about what you've gone through. So definitely helping them see what parts of their story they are prepared to share. And I work directly with all of the authors in my books, and we get on Zoom chats like this, and we will talk about what has their story been, what do they feel is a message that they really want to get out there, and then helping them put the pieces together of what parts of their story would fit that message that they really want to bring out to the world. And especially with women who are entrepreneurs, so many of us, our business is wrapped around our passion and our own lived experiences. So, really looking at the books as being a way of promoting our business because we're talking about our life, we're talking about our experience, and we're talking about what we're doing now to be helping other people, which really is promoting our business. So, the books really become a lead magnet, a way of telling the world about your business and what you're doing and why they should want to connect with you.
Do you have statistics, if it's possible, I don't know, of what kind of people, what kind of women in what countries are reading your books? Or maybe you get already some feedback messages. Just curious. Really, how's this ripple effect working? Probably it's not yet time to speak about statistics. We need bigger time period, but feedback from the books.
Yes, I definitely don't have any statistics to show. I would say the main thing is really just those conversations when it does come up. And I find that the women who are reading the books then become the next women who are in the next book because they've read the books, they've seen the stories, they've felt the impact, and they've realized, hey, I've also got a story that I think could help others. And so they jump into the next book. So it becomes a cycle that way.
What age of women usually who participate in your project?
I would say most are over 40. I would say probably the majority are between 50 and 60.
So exactly this midlife when we reconsider our life, when we courageous enough, I feel, to look back and not to judge ourselves for the some mistakes we did, but to take this experience and move forward actually in the rediscovery of what would be next chapter of our life.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the oldest woman in my books right now, I think is 83.
Unbelievable. And I'm very happy to hear about it. Was my question that I believe it will inspire some other women of this age group to participate as well.
Exactly, exactly.
You describe yourself as a disruptor, curator, once you mentioned, and accelerator. Could you share a powerful example of how you embodied these roles in somebody's life or career transformation and the impact it had on them? Looking back on your journey of reinvention, what lessons stand out the most to you? I'm sorry, two questions together. Your impact and looking back on your story.
Yeah. Let's see. I would say for a lot of women, they step into the books that, first of all, they've had this feeling that they want to be an author, a published author for a long time. And like yourself, thinking, that's not possible. How could I become an international bestselling author? So they had really put that on the back burner as something someday I'll get to that. It's too much to do right now. And so to be able to bring these projects to them and say, you have the support here. We do this as a team. We have systems in place we make it happen. And so to take them from this just being a far off dream of becoming a published author to something that they actually now have accomplished and have their book in their hand, that alone changes so much about how women see their own life, how they see the opportunities and the possibilities that they have, how they see if I've done that I didn't think I could do, what else can I do now? So it's almost like it opens up what they see as possible. And to me, that's one of the biggest things is really that opening of, okay, what's next? And especially when we're talking about different age groups, our culture has often really made us feel like, especially after our 50s, that we're obsolete. Nobody wants to hear what we have to say, that in a way it's been in our culture suggested that we should just disappear in a corner, really, because we're not needed anymore. But really, women in our 50s, 60s, 70s, and now into our 80s and possibly beyond. We have the education, we have the wisdom, we have the experience. Now is the time for us to be bringing this together and really stepping into something that does inspire and excite us and help us share all those tools with the world. And I really see the more that we see each other's examples and the more we come together as a community, so a community of women, a global community of women who are standing up and saying, okay, I am not going to disappear in the corner. I am not finished. I am just getting started. And now together we are going to take on amazing things that we didn't think were even possible before. So to me, that's really that big vision of where I see the books sparking that interest and sparking that what's next.
Actually, it was the reason I named my podcast Age of Reinvention, specifically for people, not only women, for people after 50, because I feel because I see so many examples of women, men who actually, we have still the 30 at least years of active life if we take care about our body, mental side. And actually, one way of achieving this prolonged, happy, active life is to be engaged in some projects, in some activities, or launch a business or create. It's actually what inspired me to start my project. But again, back to you as an author, speaker, and mentor, you emphasize importance of finding one's voice. Could you share how finding your voice and helping others actually empowered you and those you work with, and the confidence it has instilled in them? Some examples without names, maybe.
One of my favorite examples is a woman that I've known for a couple of years, and she just turned 70, and she has always seen herself as different. And she is into all sorts of things around crystals and energy and just, I guess, what a lot of people would call the woo stuff.
Esoteric world, we would say. Esoteric.
That's right. And so she'd always felt like that nobody really wanted to hear what she had to say. And so she had never published anything, but she'd done a lot of writing, especially poems. She loved to do poems. And she came into one of my first book that was called Embrace Courage. And she did a chapter in that book and she just loved it. And then she jumped into another book with me called Midlife Awakening and shared more of her story. And she was now on such a roll, she went ahead and published her own solo book. So in 1 year, she went from feeling that nobody wants to hear what she has to say and that she would just quietly do her thing to realizing that, yes, she does have a lot to say. And there is a whole audience around the world that wants to hear what she has to say. Like I said, she went from not publishing anything to doing 2 anthologies with me and her solo book.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Collaborative book projects are a unique aspect of Inspired Tenacity. I so like this name. Can you share maybe another impactful story or transformation from one of these collaborators? And I understand they coming now from book to book, growing up together with your kind of publishing company. Yes?
Yes, there's a few ladies now that have caught on to how much fun this is. And as you mentioned in my bio, I've now participated in 15 published books. So a lot of those were other people's projects that I was just one of the people participating in, but I've now published 4 of my own. And I've got another 5 that are in process right now that'll be coming out over the next few months. And oh, there's so many stories. And a big part of it too, for me, I see when women are in this transition between, say, a job and starting their own business, or even shifting their business from something that was more of a structured financial thing to going into coaching. So they were in that cusp of teeter-tottering back and forth, or do I stay here? Do I go there? And not having complete confidence in that new identity that they needed to take on for that new role. And then being in the book where they've now put their story and their wisdom and their tools, put it in writing and released it out into the world. It's amazing what a shift that creates. And that it's like it helps them step into that new identity of, yes, I am a coach. Yes, I am an artist. Yes, I am really claiming that identity that they were hesitating to step into.
It just remind me how in psychotherapy, one of the advices for people actually start journaling. Start journaling. It's like therapeutic effect. And this storytelling get some healing effect, I believe, in addition to all other aspects.
But yeah, there's definitely something just about writing something down, taking it out of just your head and putting it on paper. You look at it differently. It has a different perspective to it when you see it written down. But and that next step of actually releasing that out into the world and sharing it with others, that is the whole next step of, wow, this is who I am. This is what I'm claiming. This is my next step.
Your commitment to the project and creating, as you mentioned, its ripple effect of impact is evident. How do you see this community evolving, developing, and what future projects are you most excited about?
Like I said, I've always got new books coming out. And I'm always looking for how do I evolve the books. So for instance, I mentioned one of my books last year was called Midlife Awakening. Now I've got one right now called Midlife Reimagined. Then probably starting into the new year, I'll have the next one come out that's Midlife Reignited. So it's almost like we're awakening, we're reimagining, and then we're reigniting. So making that a sequel almost of those stories. But one of the other things that I'm really wanting to do next is create in-person retreats where the women can actually come together on different themes, whether we're coming together to focus on leadership and supporting each other, whether we're coming together in more of a mastermind style or even possibly a writing retreat. But I think bringing women together and really having more of that deeper interaction about what inspires each of them, what support they're looking for, and that that's where I see the next thing coming along.
I'm just thinking aloud, just imagining what men, sorry, can learn by reading these books, learn about women, about characters. Do you feel, I didn't read your book, sorry, yet none of them now it's on my list, but it would be interesting to get perspective, maybe later on, of men discovering opinions from the stories of professional women.
I focus on women mainly in my books, but I see most of the stories or a lot of the stories that we're going through or the phases that we're going through. I'm sure men do go through a lot of similar things. We've always called it that midlife crisis. Whereas I think just like with us, it's that midlife awakening, it's that midlife reimagining, that when we hit that time in life when our jobs aren't as satisfying as they used to be, or we've realized there's so much more we want out of our life. And now is the time to go do that. So I really see the themes that I'm working on really apply to everyone going through these different phases in their life. And so I definitely would definitely welcome men to pick up these books as well. And I do see doing some co-ed books in the future or something like that, because I really see that a lot of things we have shared. Obviously, for a lot of women, there are some different experiences we've had, especially around motherhood and being the caregiver and really putting our life on the back burner while we've looked after everybody else. In our generation, I think that is something that's unique to most women. In the newer generations, I see that being more of a shared experience. Yes, they have less children, but when you look at people now that are, say, in their 30s, who are getting married and having families, you definitely see more of that shared responsibility, whether it's the now we're all working, there's very few people that are staying at home as a parent. And if someone is staying at home, it could be either one of them. When we look at them looking after the kids, you see so many dads now that are doing hopefully their share of helping with the kids. So I think there is a shift there, but especially right now when we are looking at our midlife community, that I think there is a lot of overlap in what we are going through and how we do want to make changes in the world. I think part of it probably is that there's so much right now negative stuff going on around us that I think so many of us feel a calling of how do I change this? How do I bring positive into the world? How do I do something that's, really what I'm here to do? So I see that could be with men and women.
Thank you for sharing this point of view, which I'm thinking about it often. And in your view, what is the most prominent challenge women face when they seek to reignite their lives and careers? And what advice would you offer them?
I would say the biggest challenges that they hit are both themselves, putting limited beliefs around what they're capable of, and especially what they're allowed to do. So giving themselves permission to even think about what do they want in their life is a huge part of the challenge. And I think the next part of the challenge is that for a lot of women, their immediate family and friends, that's their community. And when they say, oh, I want to do something completely different, leave behind a career that you've done for 25 years and do something totally different. Usually, our immediate family and friends are the first ones to say, oh, no, settle down. You'll get over this. This will blow over. Just calm down. Rather than saying, oh, that's interesting. Why would you want to do that? And what would you do with that? And really sparking that conversation about what it is she's really trying to do. Whereas it's one of the things that I always focus on is making sure women realize that there's a whole world, there's a whole community of other women around them who are here and able to support them and encourage them and be those role models. So, really being able to step away from your immediate family and friends and realize, okay, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe I'm not just going through a thing. Maybe there really is a way for me to do something that makes my heart sing, that makes me feel productive again. Again, when we look at so many parents whose kids have left home, they've spent 20 years being a parent and looking after them. And most of what they've done, whether it's their job or other things, they've done to look after their family. Whereas now they're at a time when their kids have in college or completely left home. And that idea of, oh, you know what? I don't have to work that job that I really don't like because the family isn't depending on me as much right now. Maybe I could do something different. Now I've got more free time. Maybe I'll take up a new hobby. Maybe I'll start a new business. So really looking at that time of, okay, and again, going back to that whole idea of giving ourselves permission to think about what do I actually want to do? Like you said, we're looking at 20 to 30 years, hopefully of good productive time or more. What do we want to do with that time?
I even not asking permission. I'm thinking, what will be my next chapter? But I'm divorced many years already, and I think it's not even about divorce. It's about the period of life when you understand that you have a lot to offer, to contribute, to help. And even I believe many women started not from idea to be on the bestseller book, but just to share their voice, to share their story in order to help others. As far as I understand the woman nature, yeah.
Leaving a legacy, I think, is also part of what inspires women to share their story, to put things in writing so that their family knows their story and you can see in the future. And that's one of the things I love about books. In 20 years from now, somebody could pick up that book and you'll hopefully get the same inspiration and motivation by the stories they find. 100 years from now, someone could pick up that book.
Do you have books published in hardcover, digital format? What formats?
Paperback and Kindle are the two formats that we normally do.
And for our listeners who are on the brink of reinvention but are hesitating to leap, what words of wisdom can you share to help them to find the courage to take the next step?
Read my books. Connect with a community, reach out and find other people around you who are doing similar things and really just let yourself be curious. Let yourself just have a taste of what the opportunities are. And yeah, you'll discover a whole world of opportunities and possibilities that you hadn't even imagined.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I was really enjoying our conversation. I hope the same our listeners, followers. I personally inspired. I don't have time to write now, other than what I'm doing for my work, which is a lot of writing, which I was not sure I'm capable of because it's not my mother language and I have so many other things to do. But I really like your ideas and projects, and I actually offer it as one of the recipe for women, for people, actually to start process of reinvention.
Definitely. Definitely.
Thank you again. And today I had conversation with Cathy Derksen from Vancouver, Canada. Thank you, Cathy. What an incredible conversation with Cathy Derksen. Her insights, experiences, and tangible advice remind us that reinvention is not just possible, it's powerful. From understanding the importance of storytelling in our journeys to confronting and transforming grief and self doubt into growth, Cathy's message is beacon for anyone amid the midlife metamorphosis. Thanks to Katya for joining us today and sharing her wisdom and heart. And to you, our listeners, for turning into the age of reinvention. We hope today's episode has inspired you to take your next steps towards defining or redefining your new freedom, lifestyle, and purpose. Remember, midlife is not a crisis. It's an opportunity for invention. Join us next time for more inspiration and stories of transformation. Until then, I'm Emily Bron, encouraging you to embrace your journey, find your voice, and live your best life at any age.